Their farm was thick with apple trees, and they owned an old cart and a small herd of three-legged beasts called mudlets. Now and then they would harness a mudlet to the cart and take a load of small, sweet apples across the plain to sell in the market of the nearby town. They were not rich, but they were grateful for what they had. Their only sadness was that they had not been blessed with a child. They did not discuss this, however. They were people who thought it best not to speak of troubles that could not be helped. One day, while Dodd was digging a new well, his spade struck rock, and he saw bright colors flashing in the sun. With joy, he realized that he had found a seam of precious stones. The stones were small cousins to his tribe's talisman, the huge, many-colored gem that was displayed in the great meeting hall of the town. He ran to his wife, shouting that their fortunes had changed, and so it proved. Soon Liza and Dodd were making a good living by carving the rainbow stones from the rock. They would polish the stones until the colors shone like fire, then sell them to makers of rings, necklaces, and bracelets in the town. Their lives became more comfortable. Then, to make their happiness complete, their dearest wish was granted. 12 months to the day after Dodd made his discovery, a daughter was born to them. Liza and Dodd could not believe their good fortune. They named their child Opal, in honor of the gems that had been Earth's gift, and swore to protect her from all harm. They knew that they must continue working as hard as ever so their child could have all the comforts of life. They resolved, however, that Opal would not be left unguarded for a single moment. Fun fact, Opal is my birthstone. That's another reason why this is one of my favorites. Okay, let's continue. For perils were everywhere on the plains. Dragons were thick in the sky. Deadly scorpions lurked in the earth. Fighting spiders, crouched beneath the rocks. Fierce bees swarmed in the apple trees. The deep river ran swiftly. Oh, there's scorpions back here. I see them. So their workroom became Opal's nursery. From her birth, she lived in a world of gems that glittered with every color of the rainbow. To Liza and Dodd, the stones were simply valuable objects that were helping to make them rich. To Opal, the stones were magic treasures, shining like the rainbow dragons that flew over the river. The river. Liza and Dodd would not let her touch the smallest, for fear she would put them in her mouth and choke. But they gave her the largest, and these she played with by the hour, caring little for other toys. Her parents let her be. It pleased them to watch her baby games and to hear her crooning to the stones as she played. In the same way, they listened with smiles as Opal babbled of her dreams, though some of the things dragons in the sky too. Some of the things she said made them both secretly uneasy. She had never left the farm in all her short life, yet her dreams were often of strange beasts and places, and events that plainly she did not understand. And sometimes she described things that her parents later discovered had come to pass. Her words were the simple, stumbling words of a little child, however, and Liza and Dodd put their doubts aside. They told themselves that Opal had a lively imagination, and that it was only chance that made her dreams seem to predict the future. Then one morning, when Opal was 5 years old, she chattered of a dream in which a man with a short white beard lay still beneath the swift running water. The man, she said, was staring up at the sky. One of his eyes was brown, and the other was blue. Her parents glanced at each other. The man was an important jeweler in the town. He was to come to the farm the very next day to choose some special gems for a lady's necklace, but Opal had never seen him. The next day the jeweler did not come when he was expected. Don went out to look for him. He found the man drowned in the river, his dead, odd-colored eyes staring up at the sky, just as Opal had described. Don was very afraid. He left the drowned man where he lay and ran to tell his wife. Opal saw her parents whispering together, glancing at her now and then. She saw the fear in their faces and grew afraid herself. But her father sternly ordered her never to tell anyone of her dream. Never, indeed, to tell anyone her dreams anymore. She nodded and promised. When grave-faced men and weeping women came to take the dead man away in her cart, she watched from the house in silence. She knew that somehow she had done a bad thing by dreaming of the man in the river. She reasoned in her childish way that her dream had caused the man to die. After that, Opal told her parents no more of her dreams. She did not want to make them angry. She wanted them to love her as they once did, and to stop watching her as if they feared her. But keeping silent about the dreams did not make them stop. Indeed, now that Opal could not tell her dreams freely, they seemed to come more often. Some she still did not understand, but those that were about her own place always came true. If she dreamed the red cow would die, and it would happen. If she dreamed her mother would cut herself on the kitchen knife, it would be so. If she dreamed a dragon would carry off a baby mudlet, she knew that the baby was doomed. She said nothing to her parents, but she was too young to mask her face. They could always tell when she had dreamed of something that had come to pass. The dread in her eyes was terrible for Opal to see. The dreads weighed her down like a stone. She sometimes woke, screaming in the night, babbling of a wasteland beyond the mountains, of gray men who were not men, of terrible flying beasts, and of red eyes burning with late hate. She babbled, too, of a man who could fight the enemy, a man of iron and fire, who wore a band of bright stones around his waist. Her nightmares roused the house. Her mother soothed her and wept. Her father cursed and pounded his fist against the wall, but they never spoke of it in the morning. As Opal grew older, she was no longer happy to remain in the workroom all day. She grew pale and fretful, and even her rainbow playthings did not comfort her. Liza and Dot knew they had to allow her to wander. The farm alone. But still, they did all they could to keep her from harm, to protect her from nesting dragons. They tied up her long black hair and hid it beneath a scarf. To protect her from scorpions and spiders, they hid her feet in heavy leather boots and her hands in hard leather gloves. To protect her from bees, they hid her face with a veil. To protect her from her own kind, they hid Opal herself. They forbade her to leave the farm and made it known that they did not welcome visitors. They feared that if she mixed with others, she might thoughtlessly betray her secret. They feared that simple folk might call her a witch and try to do her harm. They feared that the people of the town would turn against them and no longer buy the gems that were making them rich. They did not explain this to Opal. How could they, when they had never admitted to her that she had a gift at all? So she believed she was kept hidden because she was a monster who caused disaster by her dreams. It's terrible. And so she grew in loneliness, trudging around the farm in her heavy boots, gazing at the broad river through her veil, and speaking freely only to the fish, the birds, and the bees. She did everything her parents wished, but she was angry and she feared to sleep. Lest she dreamed they died, or the farmhouse burned to the ground. At last, there came a time when Opal was old enough to realize that her dreams did not make the future, but merely foretold it. She felt relief. But that night she had a nightmare worse than any she had ever known. She saw the gray men that were not men. Gray men that were not men swarming across the distant mountains from the shadows beyond. She saw a pack of foul, winged beasts attack a rainbow dragon above the broad river. She saw a city lying in ruins and a great evil dwelling within its walls. She saw a hooded figure and red eyes burning with hatred. She saw salvation, strong arms beating white-hot steel, and 7 spaces in the steel, waiting to be filled. She woke with a beating heart, knowing that what she saw would come to pass. She ran to Liza and Todd and woke them. She told them of what she had seen. She begged them to warn the people before it was too late. Liza and Todd shook their heads and put their hands over their ears. They ordered her to be silent for her own sake and theirs. But Opal had had enough of silence. She ran from the house, her long hair streaming behind her, black as the night sky. Her bare feet touched the earth for the first time as she ran across the plains. For the first time she felt the cool air full on her face and saw the moon and the stars above her with unveiled eyes. She laughed and cried together, and as dawn broke, she ran through the gates of the town and into the great meeting hall where the tribe's talisman was kept. The townspeople woke to her shrill cries of warning. They tumbled out of their beds and flocked to the great hall. They saw a slim, barefoot girl in a long white nightgown standing by the rainbow gem on its pedestal of silver. The girl's black hair hung dangling to her waist. Her soft hand rested on the talisman as she drew courage from its fiery light. She called out that the people must prepare for battle with the Lord of Shadows behind the mountains. The people laughed or turned away in pity, thinking that Opal was a poor soul who had lost her wits. Most had heard of the troubles in the north, and they were all of the same opinion. What harm could a few raiding parties from across the mountains do? The real enemies of the Plains tribe had always been the savage people to the west and the tribe of brutish warriors in the south. "Listen to me," cried Opal, stretching out her hands. "The danger is real. I have dreamed it, and my dreams do not lie. But there is hope. One day a man of iron and fire will come. You must do what this man bids you and give him whatever he asks. But while you wait for him, you must beware. The eyes of the Lord of Shadows are upon our land. His monsters are coming to destroy us." But the people smiled, went about their business, and did not listen to what she said. Opal's parents came to take her home, but she shook her head and would not move. 3 times they came. Then, despairing, they left her, and her name was not spoken between them ever again. Really sad. Day after day, Opal stood in the great hall, faintly calling out her message. Kind folk brought her food and drink, warm clothes and shoes for her feet. She thanked them and carried on with the work she had resolved to do. Days became weeks, weeks became months. Still Opal stood beside the tribe's talisman in the great hall, calling out her message, and still no one listened. One night, exactly a year after her arrival in the town, Opal dreamed again of the man of iron and fire. The next morning, the townspeople woke to find that she was gone. Many were sorry. They had grown used to her presence among them. They had not listened to her, but now they missed her. They spoke of her to one another, wondering why she had left them. Opal had gone to find the man in her dream. Great fish had carried her across the broad river. Now she was moving south, away from the plains of her birth. She told everyone she met along the way of the danger going straight beyond the mountains. No one paid attention to her words, but no one troubled her either, for a swarm of bees flew around her head, guarding her from all harm. After a time, she came to another river and followed it until she reached the sea. There she found a town even larger than the one she had left. She walked through the town, and the people stared. She walked until she came to a place where a great fire burned and a blacksmith hammered red-hot iron. he was not the man she sought. The man in her dream had not yet been born. She knew that now. Interesting. But this man's face was kind, and his arms were strong. She understood that he was her destiny. And so she stayed with him. She told him of her dreams, and he listened as no one else had ever done. But now that she was away from the place of her birth, the dreams were coming less often. By the time she and the blacksmith were married, they had stopped altogether. By the time her first child was born, her early life itself had begun to seem like a dream. Time passed, and years became tens of years. On the farm by the river, Todd and Liza grew old, then died. Their house decayed, their money box rusted. Dust filled their mine of rainbow stones. Their mudlit herd ran wild. The fierce bees swarmed in the apple trees, waiting for another strong enough to command them. The town of the Blanks grew and became a city. Sometimes, at night, old ones still told tales of the poor, bad girl who had once cried warnings in the great hall. But the tales of these old ones were soon forgotten, and after a time, there was no one left to remember Opal the dreamer, or to wonder what had become of her. And there was no one left to remember her dreams.